Okay, good morning everyone. Today is Erev Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the Erev of the Gula. Today's the last day of the year, because Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the first month, right? So, what I want to do today is do a combination of Parsha and Pesach. It's a pretty good segue into Pesach, and then in Yirtzeh Hashem next week will be purely Pesach. We'll probably talk about Haggadah or something. And also, those that are interested, this Wednesday and next Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. right here in this room, we're also going to do Divrei Pesach, both Haggadah and Halacha. So this Wednesday and next Wednesday. This Wednesday, next Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. It's for both men and women. As opposed to next Monday, it's just for women. Okay, let's begin. So, when the parsha begins with Moshe being called in to enter the Ohel Moed, right? Vayikra Moshe. Moshe is told to enter the Ohel Moed. He thinks he cannot enter it in last week's parsha because it's filled with a cloud, God's glory, and Moshe is called in. In the Mishkan, Moshe is taught about the korbanos, and what I would like to do is focus in on a specific korban, which has major ramifications to other areas of korbanos and perhaps to halacha. We'll also connect that to Pesach as well. So let's take a look at source number 1. This specifically is talking about the korban mincha. Now, don't get confused. The word mincha, in terms of korban mincha is a meal offering that consisted basically of some form of flour. There are many different types of minchas. Many. Some of them were different types of wheat. Some were fine flour. Some were less than fine flour, depending on how wealthy a person was. The amount of different flour would change, and how they were prepared also. Were they deep fried? Were they in oil? Were they in a deep pan? Were they in a surface pan? There are many different ways to make the korban minchas, all of which today probably consist of way too much oil. That's what we want to consume. So, in the introduction to the korban mincha and the list of minchas is where we find source number 1. V'nefesh ki sakriv korban mincha la'Hashem. Now, based on this language, is this a obligatory korban? Is this a korban chova or a korban reshus or a optional korban? What does it sound like to you? Optional. V'nefesh ki sakriv. It's not saying you did something and you must do it. It's a person. Now, one thing which is interesting, look at the first word that is being used. The word that is being used is nefesh. If you take a look, which I did not do, and I meant to do that. In other places in Chumash, it's actually very helpful when my son is in Maharal. Actually, my sons, I should say, are in Maharal. I know some of you, well, Atara just walked in as a younger brother in my son's class. And so in grade 1, they learn Sefer Vayikra in the first parak, and then they start with Bereshis. It's based on, how do you make Gemara? First, there's a measure somewhere that says when you first want to teach a child, you actually teach a Vayikra, which is what, it's very counterintuitive in the modern world. Various reasons are given for that. That's not what matters. What matters is, so my son learned the first parak of Vayikra pretty much Ba'al Peh. So, it's kind of ingrained in every single one of us in our family, the first parak of Vayikra, which is good. So Vayikra is Vayikra Moshe, and immediately it begins with Adam ki yakriv mikem korban l'Hashem. It begins with Adam, a person. So I want to point out that in source number 1, the first word that is used is not Adam, but the word that is being used is nefesh, which is an anomaly. What do you mean a nefesh? Right? This is when you refer to a person as a nefesh. It's very strange. You identify them as a person or either a noun or a pronoun, but never this strange usage of the word nefesh, which literally means the soul, I guess. Okay, let's go on. Ki sakriv korban mincha la'Hashem, solas yihyer korbano, has to be flour. V'yatzak ala Hashem, you pour over it oil. V'nasan alaha lavona, and you put over frankincense. Vehevi el b'nei Aharon kohanim. So what do? You bring this oil flour mixture. You bring it to the Kohanim. The kamatz misham lo kumso. So here's what happens. You show up with a whole bag. He puts his hand in, and the kamatz misham, and he has a fistful. Exactly how he holds it is a machlokas. Does he expand his hand? Does he contract his hand? Okay, it's a machlokas exactly how large the kamatz was, but it's a fistful. By the way, the word in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, an egrof kamutz. What's an egrof kamutz? Is a clenched fist. You never heard that expression before? Clenched fist, right? So this is an Israeli term. This is very important for a name that you're all familiar with. It has to do with Tisha B'Av. Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, ever heard the term? Karz and Bar Kamsa, ever heard the name? Where does it come from? They were a clenched fist. They were stubborn, no? So egrof kamutz, they were clenched, they were closed. That's the connection between. Very often in the Gemara, perhaps even in places in Tanakh, especially in Ksuvim, names are used that might not have been their real names, but were names because they showed their identity, right? A great example is Megillah like Machlon and Kilyon, who named their kids like destruction and death. Like, there's just not. It's unlikely the parent actually did that. It's just signifying something. Their names, who cares? Their names are irrelevant, right? It's the significance that is probably more important. Okay, that's because after all, Megillah is often about names, right? And identity. Okay, whatever. Too off topic. Let's continue. So again, you're bringing this flour oil combo voluntarily to the Mishkan or to the Mikdash. A Kohen comes to greet you. He puts his hand in, it's a fistful of this flour. Misolta umishamna, right from the solas and the shemen. Al kol levonasa, and the frankincense. V'iktir Kohen es azkarasa hamizbecha yishei reach nichoach laHashem, and he offers this. It's placed on the mizbeach, and again, very strange. It's identified as a azkarasa, which comes from the word a remembrance. Now that's very strange. Question number 2 is, why is a korban mincha referred to as an azkarasa? We don't see that for one of the korban. But most korbanos are not referred to as an azkarasa. Why is the korban mincha referred to as why is this more of remembrance than other type of korbanos? Let's continue reading, please. 3. And the leftovers, so again, you show up with a whole bag. One fistful goes to mizbeach. The kohanim get to eat the rest. Is that delicious? Let's continue. When you bring and offer this korban mincha, me'afeh sanur. So there's different ways of bringing it. One is called a ma'afeh sanur. It's baked in the oven. So let's chalos matzos v'shem, different ways of preparing it. Pasuk hey, v'mincha ma'chaves. That's korban mincha. You want to make it into a frying pan. This is how you do it. Look at that's vav. If it's zayin, in minchas machrashet, this is how it's done. That's zayin. That's ches. Pasuk tes, mincha eskarasa. Again, he lifts this remembrance of a mincha, which is placed on the mizbeach, a shei reach nichoach, a fragrant, a positive, a fragrant flavor for God. There's a beautiful reverse, actually. You notice a lot of the korbanos are referred to as shei reach nichoach laHashem. So first asks a great question: is God cares about the smell? Why does that do anything? So it first says, he says it over here, or maybe he says it by the Korban by Noach. I'm not quite sure. It says one of the 2 places. He says that the idea of, what's the idea of smell? So smell is one of the few things that, a sense that you can pick up from far away. So, for example, oh my goodness, if a person was in a location that was a very strong scent, you're in a perfume shop, and you spend some time there, and then you leave, so like kind of that fragrance kind of lingers on you. It's like a guy in shul, his name I'm definitely not going to mention. Well, I try to give him a hug every Shabbos because he's a very affluent man, and he puts on good colognes. I figured if I can hug him, I joke about it with him all the time. He laughs about it. At least I hope he laughs about it. You give him a hug, it's worthwhile. You get to share in his cologne a little bit. So the idea here is that smell has an impact even when the moment is gone, right? Even though you might have been in that fragrance shop, even though you might have been in I'll give you. Here's a great example that I'll relate to. You go to look at kumzis, go to a bonfire, so your clothes reek, right? What were you like smoking? You come home and your parents are like, oh, you smell. No, I was at a kumzis, I was at a bonfire at my school with my friends. It lingers on you for you don't even realize that you smell. So of course you enter, you go home. So a smell lingers. So that's what Rav says. So the idea of the korban is that the smell is supposed to linger, meaning it's a positive fragrance to God. Why? Because what does positive fragrance mean? That if the impact still lingers on you, that's the benefit behind it. We'll come back to that in a few minutes as well. So let's continue. To Pasuk Yud. Vanosesim mincha. I read that already. Yud Aleph. Kol hamincha asher takrivu l'Hashem. Every korban mincha that you offer to God. Here's a very important stipulation. Lo se'aseh chametz. It cannot be chametz. Ki chol se'or. Because all leaven, the chol dvash, and all honey. Most probably, what dvash is this being referred to? Not dvash bees, but dvash date honey, right? Which is juice. Juice. Date juice. Lo saktiru mimenu ishel Hashem. You are not allowed in your korban mincha to add yeast, any leavening agent, nor can you add fruit juices. This is not Pesach, everybody. What's going on here? I mean, it's almost Pesach, but not in the Mikdash. Korban reishis takrivu l'Hashem v'mizbeach lo yaleh l'reach ni chavach. V'chol korbancha minchascha b'melach timlach. I just wanted to continue in Yud Gimel. On every korban mincha, you must add salt. V'sashbis melach bris elokecha mi'al minchasecha. You cannot do Shabbos. You cannot refrain from adding salt to your korban mincha, which is a salt, which is a bris elokecha, which is a covenant of your God. Right? So the next question is, what in the world is going on here? Why can't you add a leavening agent? Why can't you add fruit juice? And two, what's with this salt? A salt is a covenant? Where do we see any reference in Chumash to salt being covenantal? What? Where? Where's there bris melach? When the Hashem splits the waters. Hashem split waters and bracious? Yeah. By you're talking about by Bria Sa'olam. Yeah. It says bris melach? In the Chumash? Not aware of such a reference. What? There's some melach. Where it says bris melach? I remember from high school, so I went to somewhere in the Chumash. What does Melchizedek Melech Shalom bring out by Abraham? He brings lachem. Does he bring melach? I don't think so. The only time melach is mentioned is, I think, by Lot, no? Isn't that a reference to melach in Sefer Bereshis? The Medrash says, the famous Medrash, you know, that Lot's wife didn't give salt, that she didn't give salt. It's actually very powerful there. Okay, well, take a look. I don't believe anywhere in Chumash she's a melach. Okay, could be mistaken. I mean, the bris that's mentioned is bris ben absarim. There's the bris milah. There's, the bris of the kashrus ba'anan, right? And the other bris that's mentioned in Chumash is bris ben absarim. What? It might be a medrash from Chumash. Yeah, okay, give me a medrash. Yeah, that could be. I think there's a medrash from Bris Sa'olam. Okay, that could be. Okay, but the question still stands: is what is this covenantal salt for? Like what's going on here? So let's review our questions. Nefesh. Again, there's many more questions we could ask. I want to highlight the word nefesh. I want to highlight the term askarasa. I want to highlight the term why is it kosher Pesach. I want to highlight the concept of salt. All these things are very, very strange, and it ends with again how it's made. And Tezayin v'kir kohen askarasa migdursa mishamna kol levanasa ishe la Hashem. So again, it's this very strange concept. Now, chametz is mentioned in one other area that I want to just say. Actually, believe it or not, it would be very easy to clean the Mikdash for Pesach. Do you know why? Because we're not allowed to bring, lachem apani was the exception, you are not allowed to bring any korban that was chametz. There'll be one exception, right? Inside, you can eat bread outside, but in terms of the bread, if you take a look at source 2 in Pasuk Yud, Lo safech chametz chelkan nasati osa mishei kodesh kodeshimi kachatas vecha hasham. Right? So by the korban mincha, for sure, you weren't allowed to bring chametz at all. There is a korban toda, which is source number 3. There you brought bread, but where was the bread eaten? The bread was eaten outside. All right? You wouldn't eat it inside. You eat it outside. Okay. So we have to understand what's this idea of the chametz a little bit better. Okay, let's go on. Now, there actually is a time, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, or some of you are familiar with, that you need to eat chametz. And when must you eat chametz? When does the mizbeach consume chametz? That is source number 5. And this will begin maybe to give us some type of understanding of what's going on. Source 5. This ad mimacharas hashabbos hashvi'is tisperu 50 yom v'kraftem mincha chadasha l'Hashem. Here is a korban mincha that is brought on day 50. So what is day 50? What's that holiday called? Shavuos. And what do you bring on Shavuos? Mishosechem taviu lechem tenufa shtayim shnei yasronim solas tiyera chametz te'afen b'kum Hashem. You bring on the holiday of Shavuos the korban shtei halachem. Now that is fascinating because we know at the beginning of Pesach you eat matzah, not of chametz. And by the end of the process, i.e. 50 days later, or 51 days later, what are you doing? You must eat bread. Meaning, the mincha, which you're never allowed to bring, chametz, you must bring chametz on the holiday of Shavuos. Strange. What else is very strange is I don't understand. If you take a look at the Baalei HaMosar, they understood chametz, as did Agent MS in his video. Anybody know what Agent? Okay, fine. You can all admit these. Some of you watch Agent MS videos. It's fine. Yeah, I think it's so bad. Wow. But that's not what matters. What matters is the idea of how do they portray chametz as an ego. Meaning, what is the difference between bread and matzah? Right. I mean, what does the leavening agent do? It essentially just what? It fills it with air. And air is looked upon as haughty. Air is looked upon as something which is superfluous. It's not there. So if the Baalei HaMosar say, if those people who talk about the movements who tried to look at Pesach as something which had a very much a holiday of self-control and of ego, and trying to really put that in introspection, and that when you go around, and I don't have a copy of it here, but there's a Yehi Ratzon. Actually, I don't know the source of the Yehi Ratzon, that people would say when they were looking for chametz, and they would say this Yehi Ratzon that would say, you know what, that it's the source of Isa, and that's the problem with chametz. Those of you that were at the second cup of Mosei Shabbos, so we gave out B'dikas chametz kits. In the B'dikas chametz kits, we included the Kol Chamiram, we included the Bracha, and I didn't have room to put these Yehi Ratzons. And part of me wanted to put it in, but it would have been too much on one page. So I had to cut somewhere. If you didn't get one, I have about 30 extra in my garage. My wife would be very happy if I gave them away. So the notion of B'dikas chametz is that I'm not just looking for crumbs in my house, but I'm looking inside myself for what can also be thrown out. What should also be burnt and destroyed and obliterated. Things that I don't really need, the baggage that I carry, the ego that I have to leave at the door. But the problem is, if those things are bad, so then just be kosher of Pesach all year round. Women always say, all this work for 8 days, make Pesach 30 days. It doesn't add that much more work, right? It's the prep, and once you've already turned over, so who cares, right? Like, what's the difference? It's been done already. What? It's too expensive, right? So, crackers are a fortune, right? So I think the whole notion here of chametz has to be understood, because we see that chametz is asur for a week, and then it becomes almost a mitzvah. And if it's something which is so bad, because it's ego, so destroy it and don't eat it all year round. And if it's good and valuable, so why is it asur? For that 1 week. So what's going on here with the chametz and matzah thing? All right, I think the way maybe to understand it, this is a bit of a longer shiur, but I'll throw it out there. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll be next week's discussion. I haven't decided yet what I'm talking about for Pesach. But why do we eat matzah on Pesach? What's the reason that people say?
God said so.
Because God said so, right? God said to eat matzah on Pesach. Good. So that is the reason why we eat matzah on Pesach. What's the reason behind it? What does Rabbi Gamliel say? Rabbi Gamliel says, why do we eat matzah on Pesach? Al shum shelo, he speak but say kasam shom yisram lachmitz, right? That our does didn't have time to rise. So the question is, like, if we knew we were leaving, why didn't we plan properly? What's the answer to that question?
God had already told us to eat matzah.
What?
God had already told us to eat
matzah. I tell us to eat matzah, right? It's a bit of a trick question. All right, this requires a little bit more thought and analysis. But when is the first time we actually says in the Torah that we eat matzah? When does it say eat matzah? Before we leave. What's that called? Korban Pesach, Pesach Mitzrayim. Now, are we in a rush? We're like chilled out, no? We're like sitting at the table with our families. By the way, makalchem b'yedchem, a staff in your hand. Na'alechem chagurim is probably, you know why? To dress like you're noble. Some people were taught to dress that you're about to run out. But Bnei Israel did not think they were leaving yet, right? They thought they were leaving in the morning, no? And then some guy wearing pajamas threw them out in the middle of the night. But that wasn't the plan. Sometimes what you when you're a kid stays in your mind, right? Paul was wearing pajamas. That's the song. So that's for sure what happened, right? I'm sure they were nice pajamas, but they were still pajamas, right? For sure they're a nice purple bathroom. Whatever. So the whole idea of eating matzah, we ate, we were noble, or we ate, we were about to be free, or wanted to be free. So, what's going on? There's something strange about matzah. And I'll tell you what else is strange about matzah. Lot eats matzah when the angels come, and Rashi there, who quotes the Gemara, says something fascinating. What does Rashi say? Pesachaya. Pesachaya. What does that mean? Pesachaya. How can that be? Not Egypt too much later. So there's something fundamental about matzah, or not chametz, that's much more than just a Pesach-related concept. It's Mikdash-related. There's something about it that's very, very important and fundamental. Turn the page, source number 7. The Gemara Menachos, which is about Korban Mincha, says, Amar Rav Yitzchak, Mipnei ma nishtanis mincha shenem b'nefesh. Why is it? Oh my goodness, you asked our question. Why is the Korban Mincha begins with nefesh ki sakriv? Nefesh? Yeah, nefesh ki sakriv. Why? Answers the Gemara. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu midarku lavi mincha. What type of person will Korban Mincha? Answer: Ani. Someone who's poor. Now, why would someone poor bring Korban Mincha?
He can't afford an animal.
He can't afford an animal. Animals are a fortune. Flour? That's cheap. So chances are, again, this is remember, this is what we started with. This is a Korban Rishus. This is not a mandatory Korban. So if a person wants to bring a Korban, let's put ourselves in his or her shoes for a second. This person, chances are, is poor because they can't afford anything else. Flour is probably the cheapest things that exist. Although today, these like multi-grain breads are like $20. By the way, they make matzah look cheap. Okay, not really. But those multi-grain breads that you can get at various bakeries are more expensive than a lot of matzah today. Maybe not the handmade brown shmur matzah for the Seder, but they're very expensive. So, where am Right? Amar Baruch Hu midar kolavi mincha ani. Mala ani alav ki ilu hikriv nafsho lefanai. When an ani comes to bring a korban mincha, he's giving his whole kishkes. You know, I always say when people contribute to something, people give a donation. To some people, the little bit they give, it's like mamish, it's their whole soul. They're giving it belev shalom, right? They're giving everything is behind their donation, behind their contribution. And this is what the Gemara picks up on. There's something, there's an anomaly here with this individual. He's an ani, he's poor, he's bringing his whole kishkes when he's doing it. I would like to argue that maybe when the Gemara here says ani, it doesn't necessarily mean ani in terms of his checkbook, but maybe an ani, he feels poor, right? Meaning he's giving his entire soul into it. I think when you take a look at the Korban Mincha, you're going to notice something fascinating. The Abarbanel in source number 12 asks a similar question that we did. And what does he say? Sheila Hayud Beis. You know, the Abarbanel, those who ever went to Barbanel, he was the treasurer during in Spain. He was expelled like everyone else. He actually claimed that he had absolutely no idea the Jews were going to be expelled, kind of Ferdinand and Isabella. It was a real shock to him that someone so close, you know, it's like the Minister of Finance, you know, didn't know that this major event was happening in terms of the Spanish expulsion. The Barbanel in his style writes a ton of questions, and then he goes and he answers them. And the joke is, the Barbanel, you should never read a Barbanel Friday night. Why? Because you're going to read the questions, and you're coming up with chorus. You read the questions, and you'll fall asleep, because it's Friday night, you never read the answer. Okay, it's a Rabbi joke. Alright. Number Hashela Yud Beis. V'amro kol mincha shetakrivu l'Hashem lo usasech hametz. V'gomer. Lama hu tzrach lomar. Why is it telling me this? Ki chol sor v'chol davash lo takrivu v'meneshe. Here we go. Ki hine yadua haya. Shelo huchsharu l'hakriva elu hadvarim shetziva Hashem. Ki ilu tomar mina beima mina tzon umina tzon lo hutzrach lomar shelo nekrav machaya. Yamachaya. V'chen tziva ba'ov shenakriv mina tor umin b'nei hayona v'lo hutzrach lomar shelo yakrivu mina tor neglim min hayzim v'lachen yikshe lama hutzrach hakasuv lahazhir al seor v'al davash kevan shelo tziva lehem. Meaning, when someone says, when your woman brings a korban, asks the Barbanel, says the following: bring a korban. Why would I think that I'm allowed to bring something else in this korban? It doesn't say in the Torah, bring a animal. Oh, and by the way, don't bring a bird, and don't bring a turkey, and don't bring a cat. It's so obvious. The Torah says, bring X, I bring X. Why does the Torah define, when you bring a korban mincha, when you bring flour, don't add a leavening agent? Why would I add a leavening agent? It says in the Torah to bring flour and oil. Why would I add a leavening agent? Why would I add something more than what's listed in the Torah? So why is the Torah feeling it necessary when you bring a korban mincha? Don't. You might think you should, but don't. So I think the Torah here is trying to say something extremely, extremely profound, and it's the following: when we want to talk about freedom, and we want to talk about what it means to approach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's very dangerous when we do it out of our own human initiative and our own accord. What do I mean? I want to do something for God. I want to take initiative. What's very dangerous is that sometimes I put my ego and I do what I want, not what God wants. Okay, why want God's X and not Y? Okay, that we can talk about. But we have to remember that when human beings take initiative, the beginning process is very dangerous. We have to, a lot of it is about serving the I and not about God. A lot of times, many people who are engaging in religious life struggle. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. If If you blow shofar today, and you have all the kavanos of the higher spheres of the Kabbalists, you've done nothing. I mean, you blew an instrument. You didn't do nothing. It's still an instrument, right? But from a religious perspective, you've done nothing. Meaning, it has the right time and place. A shofar at the wrong moment is nothing. Eating matzah tonight is nice, right? It's not us, it's a minhag, right? But you haven't done anything, which is a mitzvah perspective. So everything's about, wait a second, why are you doing certain things? By the way, people have this issue when it comes to often community involvement, right? It's not about your ego. It's not about those that are involved working with youth, right? If it's about you, then you're in very big trouble. It can't be about you. It has to be about the person. And that often means checking your ego at the door, which is very hard to do. Very hard to do. So maybe what the Torah is saying is, when you want to start a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I said, tonight's the first night of the year. Pesach's the beginning. The beginning has to be without any ego, plain flour, water, oil, no yeast, no fruit juice. But that's not the way Judaism is necessarily supposed to be always. There has to be room for human creativity. The entire halachic system is based on human creativity and innovation. Without it, we have no yahadus at all. Because it requires how are you going to be able to take certain principles that are mentioned in the Gemara, and how are you going to apply them to a vast array of halachic scenarios and situations and challenges. How are you going to use it? You need to have human creativity. The entire Gemara is trying to figure out what do we do and how do we do it and why do we do it. And that's what they're arguing over, the application of various certain principles in halacha. But if you do it from the beginning, from Pesach, then it's about your ego. And there's one area where there's never room for any human innovation. And that's the Mikdash. In the Mikdash Mishkan, you must be completely subservient to Kadosh Baruch Hu. If you take a look at Jewish movements that are fractioned from traditional Judaism, they began with the synagogue, the Mikdash, Mikdash Ma'at. It was there that people felt needed a sense of innovation and creativity, right? And that, again, certain places, but that is where they felt the tension. That's kind of where often movements began to splinter from what was more the traditional way of doing things, right? And there's always tremendous pressure in shuls, right, throughout, going back hundreds of years, for more innovation, less innovation, right? People don't realize it, but it was extremely controversial for a while to have a synagogue that had a balcony. Because balcony is what they used to do. It's like a cathedral, right? To have two, you don't do that. You're all on, even to have straight roads. Straight rows. That was like Christian. That's what the churches had, right? How can you have straight rows? A shul should be, everyone a Sephardi shul, a real one. They're circular, they're sitting together. For us, we think that's weird, but that's the way it was, right? How about pictures you can have in shul, right? So many issues came up about what the way shul should look, because what can you be like them? Getting married in a shul was extremely controversial, and even today, in many circles, you can't get married in a shul. I mean, a shul like where there's an Aron Kodesh, right? So again, is it chukas hagoyim, and where to put the bima, and where to put the shulchan? All these things were lots and lots of heated issues over time. But I have to tell you, mechitza, no mechitza, that's a given, right? Right, over the tension that is created over the many years. Because where do we put human innovation? Certain areas. And that is why I believe when it comes specifically to areas of tefillah and to davening, that is where we should have less innovation and creativity, because it's very hard to splinter between ego and between what Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. Okay, that's what I want to get to. That's not really the issue right now. So I think we have to remember here's a person. On a Tuesday, on a mundane Tuesday in the middle of winter. What does this person want to do? He is an ani. He just wants to have some connection to Kadosh Baruch Hu. With all this kishkas, he's bringing the flour, the basic. There's no sense of human creativity. There's no sense of ego. He's bringing his nefesh, his soul, into it. Now, how do you understand that this is called an azkarasa, that it gets burnt on the mizbeach? Fistful from the kohen. And the best analogy that I've ever heard was, you ever signed a guest book before? I've been to someone's house. Some places in Israel do this, right? I don't know if right? That after Shabbos, sign that you were here. Joe Schmo from Toronto, Shabbos, whatever it is, the Shabbos that you were there. A lot of people like to do these things. To some extent, the part, and again, the minority of it, is placed on the Mizrach to be burnt. It's almost like you're signing God's guest book. I was here. Farmer Ruvain from the Galil. My flower is on the Mizbeach. That he wanted to so badly have some connection to Yerushalayim. So that's why you can't have any of this fruit juice, any of this leavening agent with this korban. But then, let's go on. Why do we bring Shtei Halechem on Shavuos? So we go 50 days from Pesach to Shavuos. And the Kabbalists were so insightful to this. What did they say? That every day you're being metaking a different midah. Right? So Shabbos, that's right. What does it mean? If you really walked in with a sense of pureness and holiness, and you began working on yourself in different types of midos, by the end of the process, sure, you can bring bread. Because it's legit. You're sincere. You're honest. You're truthful. Bring bread. It's not a haughty. It's creative. We celebrate ingenuity and creativity in Judaism. We're not interested in not being creative. We're not interested in people being, simplistic. And what was done before, we should continue to do. And that's why by Shavuos, you can bring the korban Shtei Halechem. It's actually interesting. It's actually a korban tzibur, not a korban yachi. I don't bring it. We bring it as a community. Now, I think also this will help maybe understand two things. One, what is this person ultimately doing? This poor person from the Galilee, source 14. This is to some extent, Achas sho'altu me'es Hashem osa vakesh, shifti beveis Hashem kol yemei chayai. Here's a farmer. He lives in northern Galilee. He wants to have some type of relationship. He signs God's checkbook. Right? He wishes he could spend more time there, but he can't. It's not practical. It's not realistic. Now, what's the function of salt? Why must you add salt to a korban? What was salt used for in the ancient world? Keep things fresh. It's a preservative. Maybe what this poor man wants to do is he wishes he could preserve the moment. He wishes he could be shifty beveis Hashem kol yimecha, but he can't. Can you believe it? Yeah, you have to work. You have to go out there. But he wishes to preserve that moment. And that's why Al Kor Korban Chatakiv Melach. That is why you add salt to a korban. It's about preserving the moment in that relationship. Now maybe you'll understand what we do at the end of davening. What do we do at the end of davening? We do a little shuffle game. Right? What do we do? But when we take leave of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we take our 3 steps backwards, what do we say? Okay, I realize that, right? Yehi ratzon lufanecha, Hashem Elokeinu v'levosenu. May it be your will, God Almighty. She'abana beis hamikdash rav yameinu, v'sein chalkeinu b'sor zachar. So why do we say that? What might be the rationale behind it? Why is she bana beis hamikdash? Like, what's the connection between davening Shemona Esrei, or finishing to daven, taking leave of having this rendezvous with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and saying Shebana Beis Hamikdash? What's the connection? Because the idea of the Beis Hamikdash is a stronger relationship between God and the human beings, right? That was much easier, it's more palatable. I always on Tisha B'Av, of course, Jewish people are so far away. What does God want from us? They have no Beis Hamikdash. I mean, if when they had a Beis Hamikdash, they blew it. So what does God want from us? Right? So, She'abana Beis Hamikdash, if it has to help with the relationship. Besides the fact that, right, there's a relationship between Korbanos and Tefillah, Now listen to this. V'sham navodcha, there will serve you b'yira, with fear, because the Makkah Mikdash was actually Makkah Yira. Now listen to this last line that you have, Surah 16. V'arvala Hashem minchas Yudav Yerushalayim kimei olam uchshanim chadmoniyos. So do this. What does this extra line add to anything? I'll read you the English. What is the English? Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasing to Hashem, as in days of old and in former years. What? That, if I were to omit that line, isn't that just what we said before? But now maybe you appreciate it. The English uses the word offering. What's the Hebrew word? Mincha. We wish perhaps we could have an intense rendezvous with HaKadosh Baruch Hu all day long. But we can't! We have to get back to life! At some point in time, we have to take our 3 steps back. At some point in time, our communion with God has to come to an end. But we also want to preserve that moment. We take our 3 steps back. But just like that poor person, who's the ani with his entire soul in Kishkish went to the Mikdash, so too we wish, and we pray, and we hope we could also continue to maintain that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we can't. Just like Farmer Reuven from the northern Galilee also had to go back home to work, so too, at some point in time, davening has to end, right? If davening at 2 o'clock, so if you have a 2:30 class, you got to go. That's the world that we live in. So maybe that's why. I'm not so sure historically when was this added, at what point in time do they say this taking 3 steps back? I'm really not quite sure. But whenever it was added, there's no question in my mind they knew exactly about this person who was bringing a korban mincha. And what the mindset of this individual was, perhaps is the mindset that we need to have when we dive into Hashem. And so just to summarize what we saw, we started off by asking questions on this korban mincha, and nefesh, and askarasa, and what about the lack of chametz, which is a no chametz, and why is it that we must add salt to it? Why is it a bris? Why is it covenantal? Why is it we begin by not eating chametz on Pesach, and we end on Shavuos with mitzvah to eat chametz? If chametz is bad, make it usher all year round. If it's good, make it mutter all year round. And perhaps we see when you start a process, which is going to be especially around Pesach time, when you're beginning a relationship, it really, by the way, this is also true when it comes any type of relationship. When it comes to dating, and when it comes, if it's about the ego in the beginning, then you're always in big trouble. Later on, you need to have an ego. You got to think about yourself, right? You have to take yourself into consideration when it comes to dating. It's very important. But it can't be in the beginning. Later on, you need to think, wait a second, where do I fit in? So if a relationship is going to start, it has to be forged with sincerity and honesty. I believe that's this individual, as the Gemara says, this ani, this poor person, who's bringing his soul and his kishes and to give something simple to forge that relationship. But then it needs to turn into chametz on Shavuos. Why? Because we've gone through the process. We've gone through a sense of internal introspection. We started off making chametz asur min Torah, and then we can add the creativity, the ingenuity, all at the right place, all at the right time. And similarly, by the way, that's also what we do during davening. And we take our 3 steps back from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just like this poor person wants to have this relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and wants to preserve the moment with salt. That's why it's covenantal, right? Preserving moments, it's a relationship. So too, we want to preserve that moment also for in davening. So the farmer has to go back home. We have to also take our 3 steps back as well. So we tried to tie in davening and Pesach and this week's Parsha and Shavuos and all those things perhaps all together. And that's the minhag today. Why you have salt at your table? Again, it's this idea of you want to the shulchan eating. That's also the idea of preserving shulchan to the mizbeach. Those ideas are also, I think, very similar. And again, it has to be done with the right intent. We can transform our homes into also a mizbeach, and our shuls also into a place of makom tefillah, just like they were in times of Pesach.